Whenever you are ready.
Pretty close. We're good to go.
Let's call this meeting of the Town of Gulfstream Commission to order. Please rise and salute the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Ganger.
Here.
Commissioner Stanley.
Here.
Commissioner White. Here. Commissioner Orthwine. Mayor Morgan.
Here.
Let the record show that the town attorney, Mr. Randolph, is present, as is Mr. Thrasher, the town manager, and the police chief.
This is a budget meeting. Before we begin, just another admonition. We will be limiting public comment to 3 minutes on agenda and non-agenda items. With that in mind, we will take under consideration the adopted tentative millage rate and tentative budget for the fiscal year. Mr. Thrasher, would you please just discuss the highlights of that budget?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This budget has been prepared using a millage rate of 5.0000. It is levied against taxable value of $465.4 million. The calculated $965.4 million. The calculated rollback rate for fiscal year 2015-16 is 3.6335, and that is 37.6. The proposed millage rate is 37.61% higher than the rollback rate. Let me repeat that this budget is prepared using a millage rate of 5.0. The calculated rollback rate is 3.6335, and the proposed millage rate is 37.61% higher than the calculated rollback rate. The budget is balanced with revenues equaling expenditures of $5,776,085. In the budget, including parts from the water fund, we have over $1 million of capital improvements projected. We are adding a full-time police officer to provide a higher level of safety and efficiency within the department. And this budget anticipates building our fund balance, our reserves, our bank balance by $562,000. The projected or the estimated legal fees are $1 million. If that amount of money is not utilized, that also would go to the fund balance. And with that, I would try to answer any questions you might have.
Comments or questions by the commission? If none, public comments or questions by the public. Mr. O'Boyle.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. I came tonight to speak to the crowd of people. My name is Martin O'Boyle.
Mr. O'Boyle, all comments are made to the chair. Please don't address the public. You may address me, and I'll hear what you have to say.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Martin O'Boyle. And I came here to talk about the budget, but only one portion of it, the $1 million for legal. Absurd, outrageous, beyond the pale, needs to be resolved. The way we resolve it is we slug it out, somebody dies, somebody goes broke, or we sit down and negotiate a settlement. That's where my head is. And I'm going to suggest how we do it, because I think that's just as important. I would suggest me and Mr. O'Hare, should he be desirous, and the commission, 1, 2, as many as you'd like, and then there'll be 3 members of the public. I'll pick one, you pick one, and the 2 of them will pick a 3rd, and then we will sit and we will work and we will continue working until we find a solution so that these people don't have to pay $1 million. Now, I'll just use one example. Mr. Morgan used several last time. I had someone in my office prepared for me today. There's a record suit usually is a $1,200 to $1,500 bill. That's what it usually costs. There's one, it's case 4474. You don't know what that means in Franklin unless you're a friend. It's been almost $200,000. Right in. $200,000. Now, reckless. That's the word that comes to my mind. I'm here to settle it. I'm here to avoid the $1 million that you folks are going to have to put out of your pocket. And I think that's the answer. The mayor, the last time I raised it, he wanted to have a slugfest. And Mayor, I will invite you again. Should you want to have a slugfest, I'm here. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I know that I'm supposed to address you, but I want to be sure you can hear. I've never in my life seen that a town which used to be such a neat town, everybody got along, not 100%, but pretty damn well together, and we all love this town. And ever since Mr. O'Boyle and Mr. O'Hare have gotten into this silly stuff that they're messing around with, O'Hare started with a tin roof, I guess, that was disallowed. If you can imagine anything dumber than that, he should have known that before he even tried to build it. And Mr. O'Boyle, as far as you're concerned, I guess it was your entryway that was, if I understand it properly, was turned down by the committee, and so you weren't allowed to do that. And since then, you 2 guys have lived your lives trying to figure out how to destroy the whole town. I just can't imagine that people can sit up all night and spend the whole day and the whole night trying to figure out how to mess up something which is basically good. One of these days, you may not agree with me, but one of these days we're all going to get a chance to stand up in front of our maker and try to explain how we lived our lives. And I've done a lot of things wrong, but I would hate to try to explain that I've spent the whole last part of my life trying to destroy something which is so good and just patently be so destructive that you messed up a whole town and raised all of the prices for everybody to pay. And I don't think there's anybody in this room who's sympathetic to you. And anyways, I may be wrong, but I don't think I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bill. Anyone else? Mr. Elmore.
I'm George Elmore. I live at 1320 North Ocean Boulevard. I've been a resident of this town for over 20 years. Mr. O'Boyle is a neighbor across in the next subdivision. You have a prior agreement that was drawn through all the legal procedures. Mr. O'Boyle received $180,000 in settlement of that agreement to stop the foolishness that he was doing. I contributed to that personally in order to try to bring a resolution to this stupid goings-on. Several months after that agreement was signed, Mr. O'Boyle called me and wanted me to be a contributor or an endorser for his commission seat. I at that time asked him, we had a handshake agreement. We had a legal agreement. Why don't you live by it? He told me, well, he was running for city or town commission. He didn't have to. I'm just alerting you, his word doesn't mean much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening, I'm Peter Klein. I live on Polo Drive. I'm a relatively recent addition to Gulfstream. I've been here about 3 years, so I'm unencumbered by a lot of the baggage that has resulted in this meeting. I've been practicing law for 34 years. I've been the general counsel of 3 public companies and 2 private equity firms. I've managed a legal budget that exceeds the revenue budget for this town. I'm not a litigator. I'm a transactional lawyer. I look at everything that's happened, and I think my suggestion would be to move on. There's got to be a way to settle this thing and move on, because these entrenched positions are going to do no one any good.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
So, my name is Bob Donhauser. I'm one of the residents of Polo Ridge. I've sort of been asked by the group over there to speak, and I think that I echo Mr. Klein's comments that we're all sort of new to Polo Ridge as well, because I believe we were annexed into Gulfstream, I think, 3 or 4 years ago. And I had a very good conversation with Mr. Thrasher a few weeks ago, and I think our feeling too is that lawsuits, I'm involved in real estate in Washington, D.C. I've seen a lot of them. They end up getting nowhere. They make lawyers rich, that's all they do. And I think at this point, we've got to get people to sit down and talk and figure it out, because you can't point fingers and keep going. It just never ends. I mean, lawsuits are about egos, and I think that as much as everyone may feel that these 2 gentlemen have hurt the town, and I bet you they have, and for everything I've read they have, it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. We have to move on. Because I know there are people that live in Polo Ridge that are very, discouraged about taxes going up 40% this year. There are residents that I know that live in Gulfstream that own bigger houses, and they're very depressed about it. And I think it's going to depress values at some point. And I think that we have to move on and resolve it. And the only way to deal with people that do things like this is to sit down with them and try and negotiate.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Mr. Clements.
Thank you. I'm Ed Slominski. I'm a resident in Place du Soleil on Indigo. I have come before the council several times with essentially the same message that the last 2 speakers had. I've asked that the commissioners give all full consideration to a settlement for the town for the benefit of my neighbors and myself. It doesn't matter how we got here. I think some of the actions on the part of, since they've been identified, Mr. O'Boyle and Mr. O'Hare, really were not good actions. They were pointed at people in an improper way. It wasn't neighborly. It wasn't the kind of thing that we should be doing with each other. Conversely, they wouldn't have spent the kind of money they've spent for their positions if they didn't think that some of those positions were arguably correct. I would tell you that at this point, I think now, as a reaction to being personally attacked and the town being put in this position, that we have a commission that is so steadfast in a determination to have the last word. And I see this in some of the commissioners, that they're determined to fight using our money. That's not what the last meeting was all about. If you remember, most of the people that stood up here, with the exception of one person, said, please stop this. I know for a fact that there have been a number of emails that have come to your office, Mr. Thrasher's office here recently, from our neighbors saying, please stop this. There was a wish list that went around last week in Place du Soleil, sidewalks, repaving, et cetera, et cetera. I responded to the neighbors and said, it's a wish list, just like the lottery ticket of the RICO action. None of this is gonna happen if they keep up this lawsuit. I know for a fact, because I've talked to O'Boyle and O'Hare, I've gotten them to settle down their better nature and stop some of this silliness and sit down and really talk about a settlement atmosphere. They're prepared to do that. I've talked with several of our neighbors, Julio Martinez being the former president of the Homeowners Association. He would participate in a neighborly venue of getting with you, the commissioners and the litigants, and sitting down. Your approach, Mr. Morgan, is they should drop all the lawsuits. Well, you're an attorney, you know better than that. You're depriving them of due process, essentially. How about we stop filing new lawsuits? Stop that. Stop that now. That's a good faith gesture on all parties. And then we get in a room and we start to talk. We got to start somewhere that has a reasonableness test to it. And I think not filing new lawsuits tomorrow, the next day, next week, whatever is on your agenda, is a good start. Then we get everybody together. In closing, I would just say this. There's just a disproportionate sense of what you're doing. Just take the budget as Mr. Thrasher's described it, and at the very minimum, consider that it's 20% of a budget that historically has never gone over $3-4 million, and you're going to spend $1 million. It just doesn't make sense.
Thank you.
Dollars and cents. And I ask everyone, please, to speak to that point and get us
Thank
the
you.
kind of governance that we expect.
Appreciate your
Thank you.
thoughts and your comments. Anyone else care to speak? Yes, sir.
My name is Frank Jacqueline. I spoke last time we were here. Pleadings, we try to reach an agreement and an end to the lawsuit. I live at Ballantrae. Very happy to be a member of Gulf Stream until recently. But I have two questions. Does the $1 million fee for attorneys have to be in the budget, or can it be an offline situation and billed separately to each owner the way we did with the electrical system? That's number one. I don't know. I'm not an accountant. I'm not an attorney. I don't know. Does it have to be in the budget? Can it be on the side as a separate thing? The second thing is I'm a member of the Little Club, which I believe is also now in Gulfstream. Now, if that's the case and this continues, the dues are going to go up substantially, I'm sure. And would that be considered, I use the word double jeopardy, or am I paying twice? Am I being penalized twice for living in Gulfstream and being a member of a club that's in Gulfstream?
Regarding your first question, Mr. Thrasher, I believe it has to be a line item, but I'll let you address that.
In order to have any funds available for any legal fees going forward, it has to be part of the budget. The idea of a special assessment is not something that is practical and is not easily implemented. So it is a budget item and should be part of it if you so decide that you need it.
Can it be earmarked separately?
Uh,
Yeah, you have legal fees for certain things, but you get legal fees for the lawsuit.
The
Question is, does it have to be part of the budget, or it can be a separate line?
has to be part of the budget, somewhere in the budget.
I think it has to be part of the budget.
And what about the fact of belonging to a club that's in Gulfstream, and they raise dues? Is that a double whammy?
I don't know the reasons why a club would raise dues or not raise dues, and I'm afraid I can't comment on that.
Any member?
I raise them anyway.
Yeah, if you take it upon yourself to join a private club or private organization, they have their own budgets, and, you know, that's their boards and their governance, and their staff says that they need to raise dues for whatever reason, and you're a member of that club, that that you've elected to be a member of and they've accepted you, you've got to pay their fees. I mean, that's just in general, I think nationwide, I think that would be a general statement.
But it's not considered double.
I don't know. Double taxation, I don't know.
Get
I don't know if that's-
taxation
I don't know if
and
that's the right term.
representation.
I don't know. Thank you, sir. Anyone else? If not, any other comments by the commission members before we move to consideration of the document? Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Murphy.
My name is Tom Murphy. I live at 6 Brookfield Landing. I've lived here for 22 years. I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen anything like this in any town in which I've lived, including my hometown in Connecticut, the town I live in the summer in Connecticut, Fort Lauderdale, Delray, and now Gulfstream. Never seen anything like this. It is not only sad and beyond unbelievable that we are facing a budget need of $1 million for our legal expenses. In many ways, this very difficult problem has rent, relationships, and people have been cast in different roles depending upon how they are perceived in this argument that arose with the town between Marty and Mr. O'Hare on the one hand and the town on the other. Nothing that either Marty or Mr. O'Hare did is something that I can endorse or believe in. I think the actions that led to Marty's revolt, as it were the result of a vote that was taken by the commission in which Bob Ganger and one other commissioner voted in favor of the relief he sought and 3 others did not. Little did we know that it would result in a thermonuclear attack as a result of the denial of the relief he sought. When the agreement between Marty and the town was effected, the back door was left open because there was no agreement on Marty's part that he would cease and desist the filing of any future public records requests. So the $180,000 that George alluded to, and which he ponied up part of his own money for, resulted in Marty's being able to start the train rolling all again. But all that aside, the tranquility and the good relationships that everyone in this town has enjoyed until this arose needs to be restored. The lawyers are the only ones who will profit by this. Tom Stanley knows that. Scott knows that. Bob knows that. Skip knows that. I know that. And every lawyer in this room knows that, including Mr. Klein, who spoke so succinctly but eloquently to the fact that this has got to be resolved. When I say that, I do not take up Marty's spear. I am not carrying Marty's water. I am telling you, as a lawyer of 44 years, we need to get this thing resolved because it's now become a runaway train.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. I'm sorry to recognize you. Anyone else, please raise your hand high so I can see. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm Melanie Bizzardi. I live in Orchid Lane for 37 years. Maybe I'm the oldest one here. The only thing, I do recommend a resolution for this. The only question I have right now, nobody has asked this, I believe, what is holding back the commission or whomever from resolution? Why are we not voting for resolution or asking for resolution and getting some progress on this. What is holding us back? It may be a rhetorical question, or maybe one of you can answer it, or maybe all of you can answer it. But I think it's time we answered it.
There's nothing holding us back. Absolutely nothing. I've made, at least from my standpoint, and I can't speak for the other commissioners, but I suspect that it's a uniform feeling that, number one, as I said in the letter that I sent out, there's no reason for these cases. These cases are absolutely frivolous, malicious, and abusive. They need to be withdrawn. And if they are withdrawn, the town's actions go away. Their actions go away, and the legal fees cease immediately. That seems like a reasonable approach to me. Now, there have been a number of people who called me or made statements here that they would like to see a resolution, a settlement. I have asked repeatedly, if you have a settlement offer, have counsel send it in writing to our counsel, who can present it to the commission, not to me. I do not act alone. To the commission, so it can be considered jointly in conjunction with our legal counsel. That's the way things should properly be done. But I think my suggestion for resolving it is a reasonable one and would meet with the acceptance of everyone here.
Do we know what that is?
What is?
What your recommendation for resolution is?
Yes, I just said it.
Well,
Drop all the cases. Drop ours. Let me make a comment, if I may. And I'll wait till you're finished, though. I'm sorry.
no, I'll just stay here and listen to you.
Okay. A year ago, we spent a lot of legal fees in the last year. And many people say, what in the world do we spend all that money for? What did we get for it? And I would say that there were essentially three things that this commission has been trying to achieve. Number one, and most importantly, is to bring this town back to the way it was, that is, with the character and the integrity that everyone speaking here today described as this unique town of Gulfstream. You'll recall that a year ago, there were banners in the sky and trucks with obnoxious and rude statements positioned just so the kids at Gulfstream School could see. There were ads in papers. There was a derelict boat in the yacht basin for all neighbors there to stare at month after month after month. Those are all gone. Those are gone. We do not see the banners. We do not see the trucks. We do not see the boat. Things have returned, at least in a physical and visual nature, to the way this town used to be. Now, can they start it up again? Absolutely. But I would suggest to them and to you that if they did, that would be deemed abusive and malicious with legal connotation. Second, at this time last year, we were under a deluge of several thousand public records requests, overwhelming this town. I've talked about it numerous times. You all can appreciate it. We lost a staff member. We don't have 4. Dealing with it. Now, they have dealt with it. We have no more public records requests. They have disposed of every single one. We still get the occasional one from O'Boyle and O'Hare, but we handle it. Can they reignite the onslaught? Of course. But if they did, that would be viewed as an abusive and a malicious act with legal connotation. Finally, there are the lawsuits. There were over 50 of them. Those cases are winnowing down. A number of them have been withdrawn as a result of our pressure for sanctions. A number of them have been won. A number of sanctions have been awarded. And over this year, our lawyers were able to uncover the scheme by which this was all created. And I've gone over it many times. There's nothing new. You can read about it in the articles that are out there. And that is exactly what it was, a money-making scheme involving Mr. O'Boyle, his son, the lawyers that he funded and created and directed from his office.
Mr. Mayor, I rise to a point of order. That's not true.
Please
Statements are not
Please have a
true.
seat, Mr. O'Boyle.
Pardon?
Please have a seat.
I'm sorry?
Please have a seat.
I will, but it's...
I got your point.
You're out of order.
Thank you very much. We have these cases. They have been winnowed down. And as a result of everything we've uncovered, we now have the defense to defend and win those cases. And that is what we're going to do now. The rest of them will be won, and they will be over. Can we stop further lawsuits? No. You can't. As Mr. Murphy said, you cannot contract away that sort of thing. However, I would think that anyone knows that further lawsuits along that nature would be deemed abusive and malicious with the legal connotation that is involved. So that's what's happened in the last year. That's where your money went. And that's why I say, drop them all. Just drop them all, and it goes away.
So can I ask a
Thank
question?
you.
Not that,
1 minute, I want to give additional time because I took some of your 3 minutes of time, I'm sorry.
No, my question, I guess, still stands. Who makes the first move and what's gonna happen and how is it gonna happen? And I hope that some of you also feel the same way. We're just waiting for something to happen. And we've had, this is my second meeting coming to speak on this. Last time I didn't speak, but it's the same situation I'm in as I was last week, or whenever we were, is let's see what happens. And it's just two opposing forces and we're not getting anywhere. And I'm not saying there's...
I think the offer that I've described has been there. So the town has made its overture. I have not received from our council anything in writing from the other side. That's how this should be done. I actually received a letter from Mr. O'Boyle just a hour and a half, I guess, before the meeting. It was emailed to me requesting a sit-down, similar to what Mr. Slaminsky and Mr. O'Boyle described today. I maintain that the correct way to do this is either to just move forward, meet with our lawyers, and drop these cases with a similar binding settlement agreement from us, or make a settlement offer in writing that can be considered by the commission with the advice of...
So you feel there's something going on as far as the solution? You feel there's some activity from the commission?
There is what I just stated to you.
Okay.
And I received a letter from Mr.
Okay.
O'Boyle,
Well,
phone calls from Mr. Slaminsky, as well as some various other
okay,
emails.
that makes me feel better. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Sorry to have interrupted you.
That's
Mr. Mayor, can I interject? Because
Of course.
several questions have been asked, and I did this the last time, I'm gonna do it again. Remind yourself that we're in a budget meeting. And we don't know what's gonna happen. The only thing we know is there are 46 outstanding cases. Would you, if it were your house, and someone was gonna do that, would you budget for defending yourself, knowing that you're right? Or would you just say, well, maybe we can get lucky, and maybe it'll all go away? So, we are asking you all's forbearance to have money in our budget in the event that Mr. O'Boyle's offer, or whatever Mr. O'Hare has to say, doesn't come to pass. And we have to defend ourselves in all these cases. You have to have money to defend yourself. You can't do it just by being good-looking and nice guys. You gotta spend money. I despair of spending money. I despair of paying taxes. I mean, that's who I am. And I can't tell you how much it hurts me personally to ask you and me to potentially have to spend $1 million defending yourself. But you have to do it. You have to do it.
Thank you. Any other comments before we go back to the public? Mr. O'Hare.
Chris O'Hare. First of all, I've lived here for 16 years, and for the majority of that time, I got along with everybody. I tried to be a good neighbor. During Hurricane Wilma, when I was the only house around with a generator, there were people in this audience who came into my house and took showers, enjoyed my air conditioning, drank wine, got a good time. I was a model citizen, I thought. But something happened, and it wasn't about a tin roof. It was about a policeman coming into my house and taking pictures for Mr. Thrasher. and that leading to all sorts of stuff. Me asking for piles of public records. And then Mr. Thrasher changes my zoning from other various to Bermuda, whatever the hell that is. And without a hearing, he changes my zoning without a hearing and lays on all these additional requirements. If I want windows, can't have those windows, you gotta have bars in them. And all sorts of other idiotic things. It's just crazy. So every time something would happen, I'd ask for more records. But that's all, according to you, malicious and frivolous. Now, 2 weeks ago, on Federal Highway, I went through a camera red light, got a ticket. It's the third time in this intersection. I hate it. It's the 23rd. You've probably been there yourself. I realized I made a mistake. I admit it. I paid it. I didn't sue the city of Boynton Beach for RICO. Now, when a person makes a mistake, you admit it, you fix it, you go on. It's simple. But not the town. You make a mistake, I ask for a public record. I know it's there, I've seen it before. You say it doesn't exist, I can't have it. Officer Ginsburg's personal file. Well, we don't have anything like that. So I sue you, asking a judge to intervene. It's a lousy $1,000 legal bill. What do? You fight it tooth and nail. Now, these things have piled up. I've even offered to break the logjam, because I know you've been hearing this negative narrative. You think it's true, it's not true. I've made an offer to just admit you made a mistake, give me the record, forget about attorney's fees, we'll move on. You wouldn't accept that. A $1,000 legal fee turns into $50,000. It's crazy. Now, a little personal story. When I was 10 years old, my grandmother's sister came from Hungary. You know the story. She had the tattoo numbers on her arm. She told me, don't ever let anybody take your first right away. So something happened to me when that policeman came into my house. Forget about showers and wine in my house. Now I'm going to stand up for my rights. Every time you make a mistake, it affects me, I'm going to a judge and ask him to adjudicate it. You don't like that? It's part of my free speech. I have a right to petition the court. Every record I found, just about, I discover more and more indiscretions, violations of state law. You think this $1 million is the end of it? It's not. I got multiple millions of dollars coming, and I'm not going to stop. They won't sit down and talk about it. I don't know what to do. I've got so much invested in this, and I'm not stepping down. You can count on this for the next years to come. Next budget, maybe 6.5 mils, 7.5 mils. We'll go to 10 mils, and then you can start with all the other budget items where you hid money, so you can take it out for the lawyers.
Okay.
You got it in the water fund?
It's at the end of our time.
You want me to stop talking now?
I do. Your 3 minutes is up. I like
Oh, I'm
that.
sorry.
Go on.
Everybody else gets 6, 7 minutes. My 3 minutes are up. Thank you. Here's another lawsuit.
Would anyone else care to speak? Yeah.
They used a minute.
I'm sorry. Yeah. We can borrow and shift our times. If there's nothing more, let's have the commission move over to consideration of the adoption of the general fund final millage rate for fiscal year 2015, 16. Is there a motion to so consider that adoption?
This would be to adopt the final millage for fiscal year 2015-16 at 5.0.
Right, for the general fund.
Also moved.
Second.
I'll read it.
Commissioner Ganger?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White? Yes. Commissioner Orthwein? Yes. Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Move over to the adoption of the final budgets for the fiscal year 2015, 2016, the general fund, which number I believe is $5,776,085. Is there a motion?
Make a motion?
Second.
Ms. Taylor?
Could your motion be more specific?
Yes, make a motion to adopt the final budget for fiscal year 2015, 2016, the general fund, in the amount of $5,776,085.
Motion's been stated. Is there a second to that?
Mr. Ganger, second.
Okay, I just wanted to get a second. Since it was
Very good.
repeated.
Double second.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Ganger.
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein.
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Move for consideration of the adoption of the final budget for the fiscal year 2015-2016 enterprise fund, which is the water fund, in the amount of $1,172,000. Under consideration, is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the final budget for fiscal year 2015-2016 for the enterprise water fund at $1,172,000.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? Rita?
Commissioner Ganger.
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein.
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Move on to the resolutions. Resolution 015-6. Rita, would you please
Certainly.
describe that resolution?
A resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, adopting the final levying of ad valorem taxes for the Town of Gulfstream General Fund for fiscal year commencing on October 1, 2015, and ending on September 30th, 2016, providing for an effective date. Whereas the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, on September 22nd, 2015, adopted 2015-16 fiscal year final millage rates following a public hearing as required by Florida Statute 200.065, and whereas the Town Commission of Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, held a public hearing as required by Florida Statute 200.065, and whereas the gross taxable value for operating purposes not exempt from taxation within Palm Beach County has been certified by the county property appraiser to the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream as $965,427,964. Now therefore be it resolved by the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream, Florida, that Section 1, the fiscal year 2015-16 operating millage is 5.0000 mils, which is greater than the rollback rate of 3.6556 mils by 37.61%. Section 2, this resolution shall take effect immediately upon its adoption. Passed and presented for adoption at this public hearing, the 22nd day of September 2015.
Resolution number 0156 has been read. Is there a motion to approve?
Also move to approve number 15-6. Second.
Motion's been second. Rita, would you call?
Commissioner Ganger.
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein.
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Resolution number 015-7. Ms. Taylor, would you please read that resolution?
A resolution, Town Commission, the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, adopting the general fund final budget for the Town of Gulfstream for the fiscal year commencing on October 1, 2015, and ending on September 30, 2016, and providing an effective date. Whereas the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, held a public hearing as required by Florida Statute 200.065, and whereas the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, set forth the appropriations and revenue estimate for the budget for fiscal year 2015-16 in the amount of $5,776,085. Now therefore be it resolved at the Town Commission, Town of Gulfstream, Florida, that Section 1, the fiscal year 2015-16 general fund final budget be adopted. Section 2, this resolution is to take effect immediately upon its adoption and is passed and adopted at public hearing this 22nd day of September 2015.
Resolution number 015-7 has been read. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. You said 0, it's 15-7.
015-7.
Second?
Rita?
Is that Commissioner Stanley second?
Yes.
Thank you.
Double second.
Commissioner Gager?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Move finally to resolution number 015-8. Ms. Taylor, would you read that resolution?
A resolution of the Town Commission, Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, adopting the water fund final budget for the Town of Gulfstream for fiscal year commencing on October 1, 2015 and ending on September 30, 2016, providing for an effective date. Whereas the Town Commission, Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, held a public hearing as required by Florida Statute 200.065, and Whereas the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, set forth the appropriations and revenue estimate for the budget for fiscal year 2015-16 in the amount of $1,172,000. Now therefore be it resolved by the Town Commission, Town of Gulfstream, Florida, that Section 1, the fiscal year 2015-16 Water Fund final budget be adopted. Section 2, this resolution should take effect immediately upon its adoption, passed and adopted at a public hearing this 22nd day of September 2015.
Thank you. Resolution number 015-8 has been read. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion approved 015-8.
Second.
Rita?
Commissioner Ganger?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Would Commissioners please remain for signing of the various resolutions. This meeting is adjourned.
I know you guys, yeah, I know. Yeah, no.
Stranger, haven't seen you for a while.
Sorry that our settlement.
Yeah. I think it said cease and desist, didn't it? I'll read the damn thing again, but I'm pretty sure it said that in it. But of course, he only wants to listen, hear what he wants to hear. How's Sid doing?
Good. He's from Italy.